New this morning, Rockford police officers helped get 4 people out of a car that crashed into Kent Creek after officers tried pulling that car over. But first, we begin with some breaking news. A man is dead following a shooting on Rockford's east side. As you can see, crime scene tape still up here at the home as police try to figure out what exactly led up to this home invasion and deadly shooting. Coming up this morning, safety concerns at a place nearly all of us have shopped at. Some of our kids' schools in District 205 could soon be seeing some changes. As soon as the tornadoes hit last night, a lot of people were going on our Facebook page saying, how can we help? Take a look at this one. Just amazing here. This is video from Esmond and Lindenwood. You can see just how big this tornado was. Ammonia is still billowing out of the tank right now, but crews are working on capping it. But I want to stress to you, the air is safe to breathe. Baby and mother are back together safe. And how did they figure out that was the mother?
I don't know.
They talk to each other.
Oh.
Of course.
on cell phone.
We'll get straight to our winter forecast in just a moment, but first some breaking news. After a record-breaking year, Rockford's Airfest is canceled this summer. Organizers say it's all because of a scheduling conflict. Still $1.99, but within just the next couple of minutes, that price will be dropping to $1.06 a gallon. Now, something that you need to know if you want to come out here and get that gas, you need to have cash. Chief Meteorologist Mark Henderson joins us now. We were concerned about getting a lot of snow, but looks like it's not going to be too bad.
Yeah.
Just as quickly as the rain started, it has now just stopped. The winds are still incredibly strong here, though. We are feeling the wind coming in even while we're inside the parking garage. This is an event that I love to cover because, well, I'm surrounded by food. Take a look at all of this. Food from 14 local restaurants. Important thing to know is this is circumstantial evidence, and this was for an evidentiary hearing. That means that the burden of proof was actually lower in this hearing than it will be in the trial. That means that even though they have all this circumstantial evidence, you know, people who heard things from Katrina, that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that prosecutors can rely on in this trial. I haven't been to the movies in such a long time.
I'm with you.
I'm too cheap.
I'm too cheap.
I can't do it. It all starts with a blank piece of paper and a pencil. Each stroke getting Detective Angel Reyes a little closer to catching a suspect.
We love the suspect that has a unique feature, like maybe a mole on the cheek or a scar somewhere, because you can draw that stuff and it really sticks out.
Detective Reyes has spent the last decade taking witness descriptions and putting them on paper.
This is a tool, just like fingerprint, DNA, or anything like that.
And many times the hours of sketching pays off.
We turned around and we caught this guy shortly afterwards.
But this is a dying art form and police tool. There are only about 100 full-time forensic artists left in the U.S. Instead of relying on forensic composites like this one, our local police departments instead rely on newer technology, like cell phone video and surveillance footage.
So depending on the angle and the camera, it can capture a pretty good resemblance of not only what has happened, but the people that are involved.
It's been more than 20 years since Rockford Police had a forensic artist on staff, most times just giving us a description of a suspect or surveillance video. That's the norm for most departments, but Detective Reyes says sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words.
It may help an officer or a citizen to recall, hey, you know what, I did see that person. I saw him the day before and he was hanging out here.
In DeKalb, Marissa Lesner, 23 News.
It's sad. You gotta watch what you do at all times and what you got showing, because they'll take your phone from you, and that's sad.
It was a simple walk through a playground that turned dangerous. In just seconds, Amber and Matthew Lovejoy's son and his uncle became the victims of a mugging. Lovejoy says her brother-in-law and 4-year-old son were walking through the playground here at Haskell Elementary when a group of mostly teenagers came up from behind them, pushed them to the ground, and took their cell phone. Police told the Lovejoys the suspects are members of the Get Money Team, or the GMTs, a newly formed gang in Rockford. Matthew's friend was robbed at gunpoint on his way to work last week. The GMTs took his phone, then robbed his house.
They took his shoes, hats, TV, PS4, all of that.
The GMTs have made headlines before. Police say they're the same group behind a rash of carjackings last month, and it hasn't stopped there. Officers say members are responsible for several more car thefts, armed robberies, and home invasions. Investigators believe there are about 35 people associated with the gang. About 15 have been arrested.
Even though our offenders are relatively young, it is, they're still very dangerous for anyone, and, including the young people that are committing these crimes.
Thankfully, the Lovejoy's son was not hurt during the attack last week, but Amber and Matthew know it could have ended differently. In Rockford, Marissa Lesner, 23 News.
It's really frustrating.
Dave Tucker has had it up to here. He says every summer for the last 5 years, he's had to fight to get the grass cut in the empty lot behind his home.
Makes for an eyesore. There are still areas that haven't been touched by the mowers, and you can see they're 3 and 4 foot tall.
Tucker says these mowers showed up about half an hour after he told McChesney Park Village leaders he was calling us.
So they wind up cutting this maybe 3 times a year.
The weeds growing around the stakes and light poles, though, still haven't been touched. The village says all grass and weeds need to be less than a foot high. I'm about 5'10", and as you can see, some of these weeds around me are almost as tall as I am. The property is owned by Petrie Development Group. McChesney Park's planning and zoning inspector says the village has received complaints about that lot, but adds that Petrie has always mowed at the village's request. But Tucker says that sporadic maintenance isn't enough.
There's a couple of homes that are for sale up here in the subdivision. They have to drive through this to get to the home, and if you're going to drive through that and see how it's being maintained now, the likelihood of you purchasing, or are you going to purchase somewhere that's well maintained?
And we did reach out to Petrie Development but never heard back. We'll let you know if we do. Again, though, the village says it has never had a problem with Petrie responding to those complaints.
On the air, you're watching the next generation of news. The 23 News Update at 10 starts now.
Good evening and welcome to the 23 News Update at 10. I'm Marissa Lesner. He was starting to think he couldn't get justice in Illinois. That's the feeling Jack McCullough says he had before his release from prison on Friday for a murder he didn't commit.
I just never gave up. But I knew I was innocent. I knew I had proof that I was innocent, and I was going to make them see the proof, one way or the other. I did not get a fair trial.
And finally, a judge did see that proof. On Friday, DeKalb County Judge William Brady ordered the 76-year-old's release. McCullough was convicted in 2011 of the murder of 7-year-old Maria Ridolph in Sycamore nearly 60 years ago. After his release, McCullough says the first thing he did was order a pizza. The former police officer says his newfound freedom has given him a different perspective about life both in and out of prison.
The last 5 years probably taught me a lot about human nature, and I have a compassion now for the inmates.
And McCullough could still face charges. However, State's Attorney Richard Schmack says he plans on asking the judge to dismiss the murder charge without prejudice, meaning McCullough can never face those charges for Ridolph's murder again. A man shot in a Rockford cemetery is expected to survive, but he's not helping police find the person who did it. Officers say the shooting happened around 2:15 this afternoon at Cedar Bluff Cemetery in the 1200 block of Rural. The victim is a black man in his 40s. No arrests have been made. Tomorrow marks the beginning of a new era for the Rockford Police Department as it gets a new police chief. Dan O'Shea will be sworn in as the city's top cop during tomorrow's city council meeting. O'Shea has 27 years of experience in law enforcement. He's currently the operations commander for the Elgin Police Department. We can meet O'Shea before he's sworn in during a meet and greet in the lobby of City Hall at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That ceremony starts at 5 in City Council chambers. Beloit police need our help finding a man they say is armed and dangerous. Take a good look at this man. He's Akeem Williams. Police say a few days ago he was involved in a shots fired incident. He's also wanted on some drug charges. The 27-year-old is 5 feet 9 inches tall and weighs 260 pounds. Anyone with information should call Greater Beloit Area Crime Stoppers at the number on your screen. Well, coming up, a new training program to help the unemployed get jobs. But first, it felt like we jumped right into summer this weekend. Climatologist Star Dairy is in the weather lab to let us know when this nice streak of weather is going to come to an end. Families who are part of the Freeport Housing Authority will soon get some much-needed help on their job hunt. 23 News reporter Amanda DeVoe tells us how the expansion of one of its programs is going to change how these families see the future. All right, thanks Amanda. 150 people have graduated from that program since it started in 2014. Each person has gotten a job after graduation. Well, the clock is ticking. It's time for procrastinators to start doing their taxes because the deadline is just over 24 hours away. We got 3 extra days this year because of the Washington, D.C. holiday Emancipation Day, which was celebrated on the 15th, changing the tax deadline to April 18th. If you haven't filed yet, you're not alone, though. It's estimated 1 in 3 Americans will wait until April to file their taxes. Many tax preparers will be working until midnight tomorrow for those who wait until the last minute. And many people are waiting on payments from the state of Illinois, and the state's comptroller says it's only fair that she waits to get a paycheck too. Leslie Munger says she and other office holders' paychecks will be treated like any other bill, meaning it could be delayed a month or 2. The failure to pass a budget has created a crisis now stretching into its 10th month. Well, we may someday have to pay taxes for the amount of miles that we drive. A new proposal in Illinois would tax drivers by the mile, meaning devices would be used to track the distance we travel. Senate President John Cullerton says the gas tax revenue has declined, so there needs to be a better way to pay for road repairs. It's a first of its kind for the Rockford community. A Sikh temple opens in the Forest City, giving as many as 100 families a place to worship. The temple is at the corner of Kishwaukee Street and 3rd Avenue. Until now, families had to go to Chicago, Madison, or Milwaukee to attend a temple service. Today, the public got the chance to tour the 30,000 square foot building. Head Minister Babaji says it was important to open the temple today to people of other religions so they can better understand what the Sikh faith is about.
So it's important in these days to tell the identity of the Sikhs. They are not Islamic State, they are not terrorists, they are not bad, they are a messenger of peace, they are builder of nation, or they are the messenger of religious freedom.
The temple also has space for meditation, conferences, and spiritual lectures. Still to come on the 23 News Update at 10, people trapped under piles of debris. The costly mistake that caused buildings and homes to crumble when a massive earthquake shook Ecuador, and the glimmer of hope for many still searching for loved ones.